You own a smartphone that works perfectly fine. It's fast, the battery lasts all day, you can do everything you did yesterday, everything you did 6 months ago, everything you'll want to do next week. So why does it feel outdated? In your pocket right now is a device that represents one of the most profitable manipulation tactics ever created. It's not illegal. It's not even particularly hidden. In fact, it's celebrated on global stages. We're going to talk about how the technology you own costs you far more than the price tag suggests, and how that cost keeps compounding. Let me give you a number. According to Counterpoint Research, the average smartphone owner upgrades their phone once every 3 to 4 years. That sounds reasonable until you do the math. If you bought a phone for $1,000 today, and plenty of flagship devices do cost that, and you upgrade every 3 years for the next 30 years, you're spending roughly $100,000 on phones over your lifetime. $100,000. But here's the thing nobody talks about. That number is only the beginning. That phone connects to your laptop. That laptop connects to your desktop, your tablet, your smartwatch, your earbuds, your headphones, your fitness tracker, your camera, your gaming console, your car, your thermostat. Everything in that ecosystem was designed with a specific principle in mind. Nothing ages well on purpose. This isn't paranoia. This is documented business strategy. Apple's executives have been explicit about it in shareholder calls. Samsung has patents for deliberate performance degradation. Google designs operating systems that slowly choke your older hardware. They call it innovation. The mechanism is planned obsolescence, and it costs you more money every single year. Let's trace a real upgrade cycle. This isn't hypothetical. You have an iPhone 14. It's 2 years old. One day, you notice it feels slow. Apps take a second longer to open. That little stutter when you're scrolling through Instagram is suddenly noticeable. You don't remember it being like this. Here's what actually happened. iOS 18 was released. This update is compatible with your iPhone 14. Apple made sure of that. But iOS 18 was built on the assumption that it would be running on an iPhone 15 Pro or newer. It carries features you'll never use. It processes information in optimization patterns designed for newer chips. It stores data in new formats. The result is that your 2-year-old phone, which still physically works, now feels like it's made of molasses. This is the trap's first mechanism. Software obsolescence. You have options, right? You could skip the update, except you can't really. Apps stop supporting older iOS versions. Security vulnerabilities accumulate. Your phone becomes a liability. So you update, and suddenly you own a sluggish device. Now let's watch what happens next, because this is where the trap reveals its second mechanism. You've noticed your battery drains faster now. When your phone was new, it lasted a full day. Now it barely makes lunch. Apple will tell you that batteries degrade over time, which is true. But there's something else happening. iOS 18 includes more background processes, more tracking, more automatic cloud syncing, more AI features that are constantly analyzing what you're doing. This is intentional. Apple's engineering teams are sophisticated enough to know that these background processes impact battery life. They're included anyway, because they've done the calculus. They know that a declining battery will motivate you to upgrade faster than a slowly declining performance ever could. The battery thing is brilliant, actually, because it's brilliant psychologically. Performance lag is frustrating. A dying battery is anxiety. You start worrying about being stranded without power. You start wondering if your phone will make it to the evening, and eventually you stop wondering and start planning. This is the trap's second mechanism, battery manipulation. But we're not done yet. Enter the third mechanism, and this one is where the trap becomes really expensive. Apple releases new hardware, the iPhone 16. It has a new chip. This chip is 30% faster. The marketing materials show this off. They show games running smoother, AI features processing faster, computational photography happening in real time instead of a delay. But here's what they don't show you. For most of what you actually do, messaging, email, social media, taking photos, your 2-year-old phone was already doing all of that instantly. You couldn't tell the difference between instant and 30% faster instant. The reason they release that new chip isn't because your phone is actually insufficient for the things you want to do. It's because they've engineered your perception to have changed. You've been using a device whose software was deliberately designed to feel sluggish. Now a new device feels snappy, and snappy feels like progress. The upgrade wasn't about capability, it was about contrast.
Now here's where this gets really expensive. You upgrade your phone to the iPhone 16. Great, you feel better immediately. Everything is fast again. But you have AirPods that are 2 years old. They still work, they still connect, but they were optimized for iOS 16. iOS 18 doesn't break them exactly, but it drains your phone battery faster when they're connected. You notice the Bluetooth lag. You hear about the new AirPods Pro 3 that are supposed to have better integration. So you upgrade your AirPods. You have a MacBook Air from 2021. It's perfectly fine for browsing, writing, video calls, but the new iPhone and AirPods have a feature where they share Wi-Fi passwords with your Mac more seamlessly. They have a feature where your clipboard syncs across devices. They have a feature called continuity that lets you start something on your phone and finish it on your Mac. These features are genuinely nice, but they only work if all your devices are new. If you're running older software, the experience is degraded. Not broken, degraded. A little less smooth, a little less magical. Apple doesn't explicitly say you need a new Mac. They just made the experience measurably worse if you don't upgrade. So, you upgrade. Your watch is next. Your iPad, your monitor, your keyboard. Each of these devices individually was a reasonable purchase. Each one technically works with your older ecosystem, but the combined experience of having new devices is noticeably, measurably better than the mixed experience. Apple understood something fundamental about how humans make purchasing decisions. We don't just compare what we have to what's possible in the abstract. We compare what we have to what everyone else around us seems to be experiencing. And if you can make the non-upgraded experience noticeably worse while keeping it technically functional, you can manufacture desire. This is the ecosystem trap. And here's the financial math. A new iPhone is $1,000. A new MacBook Air is $1,200. AirPods Pro are $300. An Apple Watch is $300. A new iPad is $500. That's $3,200. If you do this once every 3 years, and Apple's design ensures that you will, because mixing old and new devices becomes increasingly painful, that's over $1,000 per year just to maintain the feeling that your ecosystem is current. And Apple has deliberately chosen price points that make this feel like an investment. You're not buying gadgets, you're maintaining a lifestyle. But the $1,000 per year isn't only the direct cost. Let's zoom out and look at what this infrastructure actually extracts from your life. Every device is a source of data. Your phone tracks where you go, what you search for, what you buy, who you talk to, what you look at, what you watch, how long you look at it, in what order you look at it, when you look at it, in what order you look at it. The new devices integrate this data across platforms. Your phone knows what you are watching on your iPad. Your laptop knows what you were shopping for on your phone. Your watch knows your heart rate, your movement patterns, your sleep schedule. This data isn't incidental, it's the product. Apple says they encrypt it. They're probably honest. But the purpose of collecting it across all devices is monetization. They sell you targeted advertising within their platforms. They share anonymized data with advertisers. They use your behavior to inform what features they add to devices, which helps them predict what you'll want to upgrade to next. They use your data to negotiate prices with manufacturers and service providers. A study by Mozilla in 2024 found that the average person who uses a fully integrated Apple ecosystem generates roughly $400 per year in data value. That's not on top of what you're paying. That's part of what you're paying for. You're paying $1,000 per year in hardware upgrades, $400 per year in data value extraction, $300 per year in subscription services. That's $1,700 per year, which means that a $100,000 estimate for phones over your lifetime is actually closer to $250,000 when you account for the complete ecosystem cost. That's a house down payment. That's an entire investment portfolio. That's a child's college fund. And it's designed to feel normal because it's spread across so many small purchases that none of them feel completely bad.
Now, I want to be clear about something. Apple didn't invent this. Apple just perfected it. Microsoft does the same thing with Windows. Every new version of Windows is designed to run poorly on hardware that's 5 years old. Not because they can't optimize it, because they won't. Google does this with Android. Every new version of Android adds features that make older phones feel slow. They also artificially limit which phones can access certain features, even when the hardware is more than capable. Samsung has a patent, literally, for degrading battery performance on older devices to encourage upgrades. It's called Adaptive Battery Health Management. It's in their phones right now. The car industry got caught doing this in Germany. Tesla pushed a software update that reduced the battery range of used Model 3 cars that were being sold on the second-hand market. They did this to make used Teslas look less desirable compared to new ones. A printer company called Epson literally bricked printers with hardware that worked fine because the printer's ink cartridge had triggered a page count limit that the company decided meant you should buy a new printer. This isn't a conspiracy. This is business strategy. Every technology company with sufficient market power has adopted it because it's the most profitable way to operate. Why sell a phone once for $1,000 when you can create the conditions for someone to buy a new phone every 3 years for $1,000? And here's the really dangerous part. This strategy only works if nobody fully understands it. The moment people see the system clearly, they can opt out. They can use their phones until they actually break. They can keep their laptops until they're actually insufficient. They can choose ecosystems that don't lock them in. So the companies have become very sophisticated about obscuring the mechanism. They use different terminology. They call it innovation. They call it progress. They call it security updates. They call it stability improvements. They don't call it, we engineered your device to feel inadequate, so you'd buy a new one. But here's the thing that makes this trap really inescapable. It doesn't just work on your rational mind. It works on your emotional world. Technology is now woven so tightly into identity and social connection that falling behind creates real psychological consequences. If everyone in your professional circle has the new phone and you don't, you feel it. If you're in a video call with coworkers and your laptop is obviously older and slower, you feel it. Apple knows this. Samsung knows this. Google knows this. They've done the research. They've read the studies about social anxiety and technological status signaling. And they've built that knowledge into their product cycles. A new device isn't just faster. It says something about you. It says you're current, you're successful, you're not left behind. And that psychological dimension is worth money to these companies, because it means that even if you rationally understand the trap, you might stay in it anyway. There's a study from the University of Michigan that found that people who upgraded their phones more frequently reported higher life satisfaction. Not because the phones made them happier, but because upgrading them made them feel like they were progressing. And once you realize that the upgrade trap is psychologically addictive by design, you start to see it everywhere. Clothing brands release new collections seasonally, even though human beings don't need new clothes seasonally. Gaming consoles release new generations every 5 to 7 years, even though game developers are still making incredible games for the old generation. Car manufacturers change body styles radically every few years, even though the mechanical improvements are marginal. The trap isn't specific to technology.
Technology just perfected the pattern. And the pattern is, create the perception of obsolescence so that people will keep paying you for things they don't actually need. So, here's where I'm supposed to tell you the solution. Buy a different brand. Use your phone longer. Break free. But I'm not sure that's the real answer. Because the trap isn't just a business strategy anymore. It's become the operating system for how our economy works. Not just in technology, in fashion, in furniture, in cars, in consumer goods broadly. The entire economy is built on the assumption that people should constantly upgrade because that drives growth, and growth is how we measure whether everything is working. If everyone actually kept their phones for 8 years instead of 3, the technology sector would contract by roughly 60%. That would be millions of jobs lost. That would be billions in tax revenue gone. That would trigger an economic downturn. Not because phones are a tiny part of the economy, but because the upgrade cycle is absolutely fundamental to how the whole thing is calibrated. So the trap isn't just in your pocket. You're trapped in a system that requires you to keep wanting new things in order to function. Companies can't actually reduce planned obsolescence without tanking their stock prices. And if their stock prices tank, retirement funds collapse, pensions disappear, and it echoes through the whole system. Which means that the question isn't whether you can resist the trap. The question is what you're actually paying for. Are you paying for a phone that works, or are you paying for the feeling of progress? Are you paying for capability you need, or are you paying to not feel left behind? Are you paying because the company made the old one worse on purpose, or because you genuinely needed to upgrade? And here's the uncomfortable part. Most of the time, you probably can't tell the difference. The trap is designed so that the obsolescence feels natural. The upgrade feels necessary. The desire feels earned. Maybe the smarter question isn't how to avoid the trap. Maybe it's learning to see when you're in it and deciding consciously, rather than by accident, what you're willing to pay for a new feeling of progress. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you get to decide whether you're okay with the cost.